A woman opens her door to a stranger, expecting to rent out her apartment. Hours later, she's dead. The killer vanished into the quiet Albany streets until DNA and a grave dig 61 years later brought him back into the light. How do you solve a murder when even the house is gone and the killer's been buried for decades? Catherine Blackburn was 50, a respected forewoman at Mohawk Brush Company. She lived on Colony Street, Albany, New York. On September 13, 1964, she was showing her upstairs apartment to potential renters. It was a Sunday. That night, she didn't show up to work. The next morning, her niece and sister entered the house and made a discovery no family should ever face. For over 6 decades, no one was held accountable. No trial, no closure. But in 2024, thanks to a cold case detective, a college lab, and an exhumed corpse, everything changed. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. We shout out viewers every week. This is the step-by-step story of how Catherine Blackburn's killer was finally unmasked with DNA, forensic genealogy, and relentless resolve. Catherine was born March 1st, 1914. She lived a modest, rooted life. At the time of her death, she was single, without children, but deeply connected to her extended family. Known by many as Aunt Kate, she was the forewoman at the Mohawk Brush Company, a stable career for a woman of her era. She lived alone in a 2-story home on Colony Street, near the heart of Albany. In the early 60s, Catherine decided to rent out the upper unit of her home. It was a smart move, a little extra income, and someone nearby. On Sunday, September 13, 1964, she was talking to her sister on the phone when someone came to the door. It was a potential renter. She told her sister she had to go and hung up. That would be the last time anyone spoke to Catherine Blackburn alive. The next morning, a coworker came to pick her up for work. She didn't answer the door. Worried, the coworker called Catherine's niece, Sandy, and her sister. They went to the house. They found the door unlocked. What they walked into was later described by investigators as one of the most brutal crime scenes in New York cold case history. Catherine had been struck in the head, stabbed in the neck, sexually assaulted, and tortured with heated steak knives burned into her lips and chest. She bled to death in her own home, a place where she should have been safe. Police found a handkerchief under her body. They interviewed neighbors and built a timeline. One name appeared, Robert Broadhead, scribbled on a rental receipt. But that lead went nowhere. The home was later demolished. No physical structure remained. And for over 50 years, Catherine's murder remained completely unsolved. No arrests, no known suspects, just pain, silence, and an aging family still asking questions. Then, in 2018, Albany police detective Melissa Morey reopened the case. She wasn't just dusting off old files, she wanted results. So she partnered with Dr. Christina Lane, who had just launched a forensic genealogy program at the College of St. Rose. The partnership brought together Albany PD, students, and the FBI. They re-examined the handkerchief, still preserved in evidence. A DNA profile was extracted. But the match wasn't in CODIS. It wasn't in any criminal database. So they turned to forensic genealogy, uploading the DNA to open-source genealogy databases used for tracing family trees. And in 2024, they got a hit, not to a suspect, but to a distant relative. The team built a family tree, census records, obituaries, public marriage data. And they followed that tree down to one name, Joseph Nowakowski. a man who had lived just blocks from Catherine in 1964. He was never on the radar. Why? Because he was dead. Since 1998.
A family tree and a guess weren't enough for charges. Albany police worked with the district attorney's office to do something rare. They obtained a court order to exhume Nowakowski's body from Albany Rural Cemetery. Forensics recovered DNA from his remains, and when the lab finished the match, it was a direct hit. Nowakowski's DNA matched the handkerchief under Catherine's body. No doubt, no error. Investigators learned more. He had a history of violence. In 1973, he assaulted an elderly woman in nearby Schenectady. He served time, was released in 1980, and lived quietly until his death. At the time of Catherine's murder in 1964, he was 37. He likely posed as a renter. She let him in. He attacked. Police confirmed there was no known relationship between Catherine and Nowakowski. It was a target of opportunity crime, a brutal, senseless act of violence.
The final twist? The family helped solve the case. Without the cooperation of Nowakowski's living relatives, who submitted DNA willingly to help with the genealogy, the case may have stayed cold forever. And the fact that a handkerchief preserved for 6 decades would outlast both the home and the killer? That's forensic justice in the 21st century. In October 2025, Albany Police Chief Brendan Cox stood beside Catherine's nieces at a press conference. He confirmed the case was officially closed. "There's no such thing as a cold case," he said. "We'll always stand with the families." Catherine Blackburn's nieces, now in their 80s, spoke through tears. 61 years ago, evil entered my aunt's house and changed our lives forever. To all who made this possible, may God bless you. Catherine Blackburn, you are not forgotten. Through collaboration, science, and time, the truth emerged. The house is gone. The killer is gone. But justice, delayed, was not denied. Where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments. Subscribe to Cold Trail for weekly real solved cold cases and the exact tools that cracked them.